Welcome. My name is Michael Duncan, and I'm the Director of Applied Research at the Institute for Advanced Learning and Research. Our program today is Insights in Industries for STEM-related Careers. It's part of CSIP, the Commonwealth STEM Industry Internship Program, and it's a collaboration between the Virginia Space Grant Consortium, the Institute for Advanced Learning and Research, and others. Our goal is to provide information to Virginia's college students who are pursuing degrees in science, technology, engineering, and math. It is our hope that after you finish your studies, that you'll explore opportunities to work in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Today we will be talking about the biotechnology industry, the significant role it plays in the economy, and the opportunity it holds for STEM students in Virginia. Our guest today is Jeff Gallagher, CEO of the Virginia Biotechnology Association, also known as Virginia Bio. Virginia Bio is the premier statewide nonprofit trade association representing the life sciences industry in the Commonwealth of Virginia. More than 200 member organizations have joined forces to make Virginia Bio an effective advocate for the biopharmaceutical and device industries before federal, state, and local policymakers. Prior to becoming CEO of Virginia Bio in 2012, Jeff had many years of experience as a leader in biotech companies and also practiced corporate law in Richmond, focusing on new technology company formation, international business, and intellectual property transaction. He holds a baccalaureate in government from Harvard, a Juris Doctor from the University of Wisconsin Law School, and a Master of Laws in Public International Law from the University of Virginia School of Law. Jeff, welcome.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks very much. It's great to be here at ILR. This is such a terrific facility. You walk in that front door and you think you're in the future.
It is quite nice.
Yeah, it's great. And by the way, thanks for wearing the Virginia Bio pin.
Absolutely, glad to do it.
Yeah, good.
Jeff, my first question relates to the term biotechnology. According to Virginia Bio's website, biotechnology is a substantial portion of Virginia's economy and its future growth. The term biotech, of course, covers a very broad spectrum, so please explain what defines, if you will, the biotech industry.
Sure, and it's a great question because there's some confusion. Biotech classically means, and your STEM students may know this, the field of using a living organism to actually manufacture a chemical or a protein, where we harness the living organism to do our work for us. That's the classic definition, and it certainly is part of our organization. But when we think about biotech now, we think about the application of technology to the biosciences broadly. So that would encompass industrial applications like getting fuel from plants, agricultural applications, improving the plants that we have and the ways that we do things with them. And it also includes the classic fields that are health, that most people think about, health and medicine. You look at health and medicine though, but there's a wide range even there. So the biotechnology, applying technology to bioscience ranges from pharmaceuticals, discovering new drugs and new ways of administering them, diagnostics, how do we determine what illness a patient has and whether, say, a pharmaceutical has been effective in its treatment. And it includes medical devices as well. Everything from what we think of as the classic prosthetic of an arm for someone who's lost an arm to the new age prosthetic, where we have the brain-computer electronic interfaces, where folks will, in the not too distant future, have chips implanted in their brain and be able to manipulate a prosthetic arm which replicates what the human arm could do. So all those things are part of the new biotechnology.
So Luke Skywalker's replacement hand is not far away?
There are many people in this country and the world who are working on that very thing right now.
Any of that in Virginia?
Increasingly there is, especially in the brain electronic interface. Some of the great brain research in the world is being done in Virginia, and that's what's going to lead to some of those discoveries.
Well, that's very exciting.
Yeah.
Science fiction becomes science fact.
Man, it is right here.
Well, one of the things that I've noticed in my runnings around the state is that Central Virginia is appears to be the hub of the state's biotech industry. What factors have caused that to develop?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When I look across the state at the bioscience industry, I see multiple nodes, if you will. So Tidewater, the Richmond area, the Charlottesville area, the Valley even, Roanoke, Blacksburg, Northern Virginia. are really the strongest of the regions. Each of those is spreading out a little bit more. Down here in Danville now, we're getting more and more activity, and in a couple other new spots around the state. But to come back to your question, yeah, in a way, Richmond and Charlottesville, say, have in some ways are leading the pack. In large part, that is because of the university system.
Okay.
You know, bioscience is driven by innovation. Innovation comes from ideas. Our university, and in bioscience, where we've pushed the envelope so far, so that the questions we're asking require pretty sophisticated tools. You know, and you're standing on the shoulders of generations before you, so there's a large body of knowledge to get to that next innovative step. The universities in Virginia are really the main driver of that. So the UVA system and the VCU MCV, of course at Tech and at Mason it's spreading as well, in Eastern Virginia Medical School. But that sense of the universities being the drivers is what's got it located there.
Okay, all right. Well, you talked a little bit about the Central Corridor and the growth throughout the rest of the state. Is there any new and exciting activities going on those peripheral parts of the state that you could speak to?
Yeah. It's a terrific time in the biosciences in Virginia. And so there's a lot of activity both in the nodes and in the peripheral areas like you're talking about. Why is it a terrific time? Number one, the amount of scientific knowledge is exploding. You know that. Yeah. It's exploding in field after field after field. Part of that is because we have the application of great leveraging tools like big data. Mm-hmm. Part of it is because there's been a cost drive down for many of the ways that we gather and examine data. I call it the democratization of the tools of research. One no longer has to be in Boston or San Diego or at the NIH to have access to some of the great tools of discovery and research. They can be spread much more widely. And even if the tool isn't located there, we can remote them remotely. There are core research facilities across the Commonwealth of Virginia that are scanning tunneling microscopes, for example, mm-hmm. at a couple spots where students in high school or college or a private company can mail their sample in. They can dial up the program and they can access. They can be on their own computer in their own company, their own school, can be twirling the dials and moving that microscope at one of the great universities. So these things are widely available. I think that's one of the big drivers. The other, though, is that over the last 10, 20 years, as healthcare and medicine mm-hmm. has taken a much bigger chunk of the GDP of our country, approaching 20%
yes,
now,
sir.
I think.
Yep.
We look at that and we say, whoa, how are we going to get control of that? How are we going to get effective relief, effective services, quality of care for the money that we spend, and how can we drive that back down so it doesn't choke off everything else? And you twirl your head around a couple times and you come back to the idea, we need to innovate, mm-hmm. And that drives people to say, what's the engine of innovation in healthcare? And the innovation in healthcare is bioscience technology. So you have healthcare systems, and we have some magnificent healthcare systems in Virginia, Carillion, Innova, Centera, I could go on and on. They become drivers of innovation. So just for one example, Centera is one of the major parties down in the Tidewater area, which is now looking at a strategic plan to build a 150-acre bioscience, health science compound down there. You know the story in Roanoke with Carillion yes. and Virginia Tech and the state of Virginia. Fantastic expansion and creation of a center there, Virginia Tech Carillion, which is going to generate ideas and jobs for years to come. So I think those are drivers of the expansion. Those are the main ones I see. Yeah.
I know life sciences is a huge part of it, but and my background, it's much more plant science oriented. Mm-hmm. I tend to feel that there's a greater integration coming between the various sciences, whether it's life sciences and plant sciences, but also the information technology sciences, the engineering around manufacturing the next device. Do you see more and more of that in the business community and in the academic research world?
Yeah, great question, great point, and really a great point to the young people who are watching. There are many ways to become part of the excitement of the biotech field, and you don't have to go straight through the door of biology to be there. If you love IT, if you love deep analytics, if you love to figure out how to ask really interesting questions about really tough data sets, you have a really critical role in the bioscience industry. When I tour around the state now and beyond and look at the up and coming bio companies, you'll walk into a new space and they'll proudly show off their setting, and you'll go into the lab and the wet lab and you'll see all this great equipment, but then they'll take you by the IT center too. And there's almost as much space with just people looking at those screens and cranking away. That's a critical part of every company now.
It absolutely is, and the experience here at the Institute for Advanced Learning and Research, you've seen the infrastructure. We have a tremendous number of labs and things, but you look behind the shielded glass, the frosted glass,
right,
and there's huge IT components to it, because we have to move a tremendous amount of data, not only internally, but to the customers for which we do contract research or for federal government reports and the like. It's amazing, and I just see more and more integration, and I think that a multidisciplinary approach that allows everyone that has a love or a passion for science to get involved at some degree, even if they're not the brainiac scientist that I certainly am not.
Yeah, no, I agree. Part of that is what we've discovered in the last 30 years is that the language in which life is written can be coded, in a binary code. Yeah. It's coded that way in the genome and the proteome, et cetera, and we can do that. So we can translate and recreate that language over in our IT systems. It allows us to do things we used to do with chemicals, we can now do them in the machine. So I think the way that we do next generation sequencing now, 20 years ago it was $1 billion in 10 years to sequence a human genome. 10 years later it was $1 million in 1 year, and now it's $499 in 3 days.
Doesn't take long.
No, and they don't have 1,000 monks doing the chemical experiments. They decided that they would sonicate the genome into tiny little pieces and sequence all those in a short amount of time, and then computers match them together like a jigsaw puzzle. Yep. Extraordinary increase in impact and effectiveness and efficiency by the IT component. Yeah,
it's tremendous. I want to divert off to a different topic around the issue of pharmaceuticals. That's obviously a major component in biotech. It's a portion of the industry that we're seeing some growth in Southern Virginia. I know you see it around the rest of the Commonwealth. What should a student major in if they're interested in that field?
That's a good question. There's the pharmaceutical industry, I think, is probably not well understood by most people. And what's not well understood is the distance that one has to travel from finding that winning idea of a molecule that's going to help you and actually getting it to the clinic or the store shelf. We joke that the pharmaceutical industry disproves Cartesian mathematics, that in pharmaceutical industry there is no such thing as a straight line between where you are and where you have to go. You have to do this first, then you have to do that first. You have to have your machinery tested, and the person who tests the machinery has to be qualified, and then someone has to qualify the qualifier, and suddenly $8 million is gone and you don't even have your first test result yet. Yeah. But it's because the FDA demands this wonderful level of exactness and safety and scrutiny. And what I want to, the point I'm trying to make from that is there's an extraordinary level of execution at every step. And so there's a fidelity to execution. There's a sense that to be successful in the pharmaceutical industry, you have to be passionate about the end point. We're going to help people, and I'm going to meet a lot of obstacles. They're there for good reasons. I'm going to find a way to satisfy them. not to avoid them, but to satisfy them. I've got to execute really well. I've got to dot every I and cross every T, because someone's health is on the line at the end. And there's also, I'm part of a $1 billion endeavor, and if our results at this piece aren't good, if they crumble when somebody really looks at it closely, the whole edifice is going to crumble. Right. It's teamwork, it's teams and teams, it's communication, it's double checking. So you could be an engineer, you could be a program manager, you could come out of business with a love of science, you could come out of accounting, there are a lot of fields you can come out to and be a critical part of that pharmaceutical development team. Obviously, if you're in science and biology and chemistry, synthetic chemistry, computer modeling, those are all important fields. But ultimately, it's a respect for the extraordinary process that we've created in this country, which has been the font for virtually all of the medicines of the world for the last 100 years.
Just the list of careers you mentioned, I was kind of running through this in the STEM model. Sometimes you might miss it, you think of a program manager, but there's mathematics involved in that. There's statistics, there's an understanding of calculus, or there's just all kinds of applications that even the student that may not be in a degreed program for science, hard science, if they're engaged in a business administration degree, understanding and accepting that there is science and technology, mathematics and engineering that they need to consider. That's, I think, is an important part of what that undergraduate needs to be looking to do.
Yeah, very much so. Needs to consider and needs to develop some fundamental respect and understanding of. Even if they're not going to be the one doing the science, they know what the scientific method is. They know that a result is a result on one occasion, but you better replicate that a couple times. Don't go talking to the banker right away until you replicate it and have somebody else replicate it. Just those basic understandings of what science tries to achieve and when it can declare victory.
Yeah. You gave me an opportunity to go off script, so I'm going to.
Okay.
The idea of talking to the banker, that's an entrepreneurial function, and it's one obviously near and dear to my heart. Do you see more and more entrepreneurial activities, either the small one, the kitchen table as I call it, or the larger organization? Is more of that coming online? Is biotech a way to break into the world of being an entrepreneur?
Oh yeah. We have over 200 member companies, and a good half of our core bio companies have an entrepreneur behind them, in the classic sense. And if there weren't that person, him or her, then that company would not exist. It's innovation. It's making innovation come to life in this field. You can get into the large organizations where entrepreneurism is not the most important trait, but in the small companies where you have a new idea, a big idea, you believe in it, or you've met over beer or through a friend or through your sister-in-law or something like that, someone who's got that idea, you believe in it, the 2 or 3 or 4 of you put it together and make it happen. You get it to a proof of concept when all the big players, they're too busy to look at that. But you say, wow, that could be something special we found. And then you bring it up to that level, and then it enters the river and starts going down the river of the system.
A shameless plug for Virginia Bio, I guess, is next on my list. But a young entrepreneur or college student coming out with an idea that wants to pursue it, do those forums exist within the association, or connections can be made within the association that might help that person?
Yeah, they sure do. That's one of the things that our people love to do, is talk with young people. If they've got a great idea, or even if they don't, but they just want to get involved. So we have events all around the Commonwealth where we have after-hour networking events, and there's nothing like our CEOs and our C-suite people at our companies love to talk to young people and urge them on, because they know, Thomas Kuhn, Structure of Scientific Revolution, I know you know that book, and it's a classic study of how a generation creates a paradigm for what science is or how things are, and they live with that paradigm, and someone new has to come along and smash it and say, no, there's a better way to describe it. And I think we all have that humility that we're doing the best we can with the way we understand the world, but things are changing so rapidly. We need the young people who, they may not have our knowledge, but they're also not burdened with our preconceptions.
Correct.
To come in and take us to the next level.
Very, very true. And I think on that, my final question is, and as you look at the world of the undergraduate student, are there any specific classes or any specific skills that if a student wants to find a position in the biotech industry, that you would encourage them to make sure that it's on the list that they complete?
Yeah. You know, I've thought about this for a number of years and talked with a number of students and employers about it. And I think there's not. One thing I can say is it's not necessary to take the most advanced chemistry course or physics course or in order to get into the field. You may want to, and if that fits you, great. And if that will continue to keep your enthusiasm up, terrific. Don't not do it on account of that. But what employers like most and find most valuable is a student who is passionate about their position. So that means a love of science and a respect for science. It means a love of continuous learning, because whatever you come out of undergraduate knowing, in 5 years, half of it will be different.
True.
Right? And if you think you can stop learning when you get out of school, you don't have the right idea. Every one of us reads at night, talks to people all the time. We know, you know, just think of it, epigenetics, the microbiome. Yep. No one even knew about these 10 years ago, and now they're entire fields that influence how we do our bioscience. So lifelong learning, passion, respect for the scientific method, care in everything that you do. Some of our employers say that the students who are able to make the biggest valuable impact when they come in, and now I'm talking about, say, classic scientific students who are going to be in the lab position, are ones who just know what they're doing around the lab equipment. It's not even that they used that machine necessarily before, right, or ran an HPLC or a liquid chromatography setup, but they respect it. They know there's a procedure. They know you be exact. They know that even though you're exact, it's not completely mechanical. You have to think at the same time. They ask questions. They don't pretend they know something that they don't know. But yet, if they know something that maybe can inform it, they bring that in from some other field. So vital, alive, team members in the context of science and techniques, but passion.
And I think that's a wonderful way to close it, because that's what we're hoping the internship experience will help provide the student. The exposure to those protocols around different types of machinery and test equipment, the opportunity to work as a member of a team, and whether it's in the lab or in the IT room or wherever it might be. The opportunities that are available to Virginia students through this program and any other internship program is one they should capitalize on it.
Yep.
I want to thank you very, very much for your time, Jeff.
That's my pleasure,
it's just
Mike.
been a pleasure to have you here. Hopefully that this has provided every one of you a glimpse into a growing industry that's full of potential opportunities for those of you that are in STEM majors. And thanks to our viewers today for joining today's program, which was produced at the Institute for Advanced Learning and Research here in Danville, Virginia, in partnership with the Virginia Space Grant Consortium. Please visit their websites to learn more about each organization and the opportunities that are available through them.